Tonight, war abroad, frustration at home. President Trump this weekend vents about setbacks to celebrate America's 250th anniversary, including his changes to the nation's capital.
I'm Olivia Gazis at the White House. President Trump fumes on social media about slights and judges' rulings, but stays silent on Iran as a peace deal remains elusive.
This as Israel keeps fighting. Its forces gaining ground in Lebanon. We'll have the latest. Also tonight, search stalled. The new setback to find the last two missing miners deep in that flooded cave in Laos. Meteor mayhem.
I'm Chanel Call with new details on that big boom heard by millions this weekend.
Shifting priorities.
I'm Carter Evans in Los Angeles. America's automakers have a numbers problem as rising gas prices, inflation, and interest rates keep buyers at home and cars on lots.
All that, plus returning home at last. 85 years after being killed in the Pearl Harbor attack, a teenage sailor who died in action that day is laid to rest in Arkansas.
This is the CBS Weekend News from New York with Jerika Duncan.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us on this Sunday. President Trump says he likes his wins quick and decisive, but peace with Iran remains elusive. The Strait of Hormuz is closed, and gas prices, well, they're still high. And now there's new trouble on the home front. The president didn't speak in public this weekend, but he did express his frustration on social media over several setbacks. CBS's Olivia Gazis is at the White House and leads us off tonight with more on that part of the story. Olivia.
Good evening, Jerika. The upcoming celebrations for the nation's founding meant to unite the country have become a source of political conflict as President Trump pushes plans to celebrate America's birthday and his own.
Between golf outings this weekend, President Trump fired off a social media broadside, attacking one judge who ruled his name be pulled off the Kennedy Center and another who ordered a stop to the above-ground White House ballroom construction. The president also targeted musical acts who have pulled out of Freedom 250 celebrations, calling them overpriced singers and floating a MAGA rally as a replacement, even though Interior Secretary Doug Burgum insisted the events would be politically neutral.
Some musicians want to play music for everybody, and some musicians seem to have segmented their audiences. But this is Freedom 250, and the celebration of the 250 is a nonpartisan event.
The administration is also proposing a $250 bill with the president's image.
I think it's fitting. President Trump is the president during our 250th anniversary.
Democrats point out federal law prohibits putting any living person on U.S. currency.
He wants to put his name on our money, on our passports, on our park passes. We have to stop him.
This will be the kitchen floor.
Ahead of his own 80th birthday celebration in June, the president walked his daughter-in-law, Lara Trump, through construction of the White House ballroom and the massive UFC fighting cage now towering over the South Lawn.
Everyone says, oh, he did it for his birthday. And it's Sunday night, June 14th. It happens to be Flag Day, and it happens to be my birthday, but that happened to be the best night for it.
While those plans move forward, there is still no indication of a breakthrough in talks with Iran. CBS News has confirmed the president made further edits to the pending deal, now sent back to the Iranians to review. Jerika?
Olivia Gazis at the White House, thank you. While 50,000 U.S. troops in the Middle East wait for what's next, Israel keeps fighting. Today, its forces expanded its invasion of Lebanon. CBS's Imtiaz Tayeb at our London bureau has the very latest. Imtiaz.
Jerika, good evening. Well, we're still waiting to hear from Iran as to whether it will accept the president's changes to the Memorandum of Understanding. But trust between Washington and Tehran is at an all-time low, and Israel's widening offensive in Lebanon is only complicating matters.
The last time an Israeli flag was raised over this Crusader-era castle was more than a quarter of a century ago. 9 miles from Israel's border, the capture of Beaufort Castle in southern Lebanon follows days of intense fighting between Israeli forces and Iran-backed Hezbollah. Since March, more than 1 million people have been displaced and at least 3,350 have been killed in Lebanon, according to the Lebanese Ministry of Health, despite a nominal ceasefire put in place last month. Israel's northern communities also remain largely evacuated. In a video tonight, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said his aim was to deepen and expand our grip on the places that were under Hezbollah's control. Just how much further Israel intends to expand its military operations in Lebanon is unclear. But it comes as Washington and Tehran inch towards agreeing a memorandum of understanding to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, begin intense negotiations to end the war, and deal with thornier issues like Iran's nuclear material. Still, for Tehran, a key demand for talks is for the fighting in Lebanon to end. Michael Oren is a former Israeli ambassador to the U.S.
We also understand that Mr. Netanyahu is not deeply involved in the negotiations that are being mediated by Pakistan. Why not?
I don't know if the president feels that he can't achieve all of those goals. He has pressures on him internally, certainly political pressures as the midterms approach. He has economic pressures as the price of gas continues to rise. And Israel has a different set of priorities.
And in a recent Truth Social post, President Trump said Iran must agree to never have a nuclear weapon and reopen the Strait of Hormuz with no tolls. But made no mention of Lebanon, Jerika, as the fighting there only intensifies.
All right, MTS Tayeb, thank you. Today, heavy rain stalled efforts to find 2 men still trapped inside a cave in Laos. 5 others are recovering in a hospital. 1 was rescued by divers. The other 4 walked out on their own Saturday when water levels receded. It was a surprise to everyone involved, including the lead diver who spoke to CBS's Matt Gutman.
The guys came out by themselves. So they crawled when they saw the water level going down. They saw the opportunity. They took it. For these guys, such a, like the best, absolute best outcome. Everybody's safe. Nobody had to risk anything.
Divers plan to resume their search for the last 2 men tomorrow. Now to what's being called a landmark breakthrough for treating pancreatic cancer. Results released in Chicago today show the drug daraxonrasib keeps patients alive for twice as long as those on regular chemotherapy. Oncologists are calling it unprecedented and spectacular. Tonight, NASA is confirming the cause of that mysterious big boom heard by millions across New England. CBS's Chanel Call joins us with new details and video about that sound and the streak in the sky. Chanel.
And Jerika, this was a 3-foot meteor that disintegrated in the skies over Boston yesterday. Just the latest in a recent string of fireballs reported from Texas all the way to Buffalo. This was the moment a meteor exploded above the Massachusetts-New Hampshire border on Saturday.
I have never been in an earthquake, but it felt like maybe what it might feel like.
The fireball, traveling at 75,000 miles per hour, rattled windows and even shook homes from Boston to Rhode Island. Meteorologist Eric Fisher from our CBS station in Boston says while meteors are common, ones this big are not.
So the big boom that everyone hears is the sonic boom. It's a pressure wave that's building up ahead of basically a rock hurtling through space. So as that rock is heating up, it fragments and at some point can explode.
So where is it? Where is the debris?
So it isn't really like the day after tomorrow where people were looking for the tsunami or something like that afterwards. The way this one was traveling, if anything did make it to the surface, it's probably in the Atlantic.
And NASA says that any remnants of this particular meteor would be about 100 feet underwater in Cape Cod Bay, adding that this debris could potentially be recovered using magnetic technology. Jerika?
All right, glad no one was hurt. Chanel Call, thank you. On the CBS News Money Watch, auto dealers have a math problem. Ballooning prices are keeping potential buyers off lots. CBS's Carter Evans is in Los Angeles and explains why. Carter, good evening.
Well, good evening, Jerika. For decades, buying a new car was a milestone, but now for many Americans, it's starting to look more like a luxury. America's cars are aging. The average vehicle on the road is now 13 years old, a record high, as sticker shock keeps many potential buyers out of the market.
I think for me, a new car is kind of off the table. Maybe more in the future, a new car can be kind of like an aspirational purchase.
The average price of a new car is now close to $50,000, and industry analysts say it's caused about 1 million new car buyers to drop out of the market since 2020. But dealers say it's not just car prices holding people back.
With those other factors, insurance and interest rates, is going to continue to weigh on the affordability factor for customers.
Brian Benstock, general manager of Paragon Honda in New York City, says inflation and rising gas prices are all adding pressure.
There's a lot more receptivity to used cars than there ever was in the past.
But used car prices are also approaching record highs, averaging almost $32,000 for a 3-year-old vehicle. So dealers are coming up with creative financing.
We have a number of former loaner cars that we offer on lease.
Automakers are still showing strong profits despite lower sales. Why is that?
Although they are selling at lower volume, they are selling larger vehicles, more expensive vehicles, vehicles with more equipment, and that leads to higher margins, which ultimately leads to more profitability.
What happens next really depends on automakers. Will they start producing more cars that Americans can actually afford, or will they keep chasing bigger profits on more expensive vehicles like SUVs? Jerika?
See what happens. Carter Evans, thank you. Turning to the weather, there's no end to severe storms which spun off tornadoes across the plains this weekend, including this one you see there in Yuma, Colorado. Let's check in with CBS News meteorologist Andrew Kozak for more on what is ahead. Andrew, good evening.
Yeah, short answer, more storms. Good evening, Jerika. That same system delivering over 145 severe weather reports yesterday, now moving across the plains. And tonight, it's Missouri with a new severe thunderstorm watch in effect for southeast Missouri through almost midnight. These storms overnight will continue to move and give us a threat for gusty winds, some small hail, and even a brief tornado. So we're going to keep our eye on that. Interestingly enough, it's an area that doesn't really need the rain. It's east, and especially much of the East Coast and specifically the southeast under a drought situation that continues. Now, let's talk about the Pacific. This cluster of storms, a very good chance in the next 7 days to develop into the first tropical depression of the season. No threat currently to land, but we're going to keep our eye on it. Jerika, tonight, speaking of hurricanes, hurricane season begins tomorrow officially. These are the Atlantic names all the way through 2026. And I did look through 2031. The lists are out, but there is no Jerika on there.
Shocking. Andrew Kozak, thank you so much. A co-founder of the Commodores has died. Ronald LaPred was the group's bassist. The Commodores formed in the late 1960s after its members first met as students at Tuskegee Institute in Alabama. Ronald LaPred was 75. And a homecoming this weekend for a U.S. sailor killed in the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor nearly 85 years ago. Royal Luker received full military honors when he was buried beside his parents in Plainview, Arkansas. Luker was 17 years old when he was killed aboard the USS West Virginia. DNA technology is what helped identify his remains. Straight ahead on the CBS Weekend News, Marilyn Monroe like you've never seen her before. But first, the perfect selfie. Why neighbors who live beneath this landmark sign are saying enough already. It is one of the most iconic landmarks in the world, but neighbors say what's happening in the shadow of the Hollywood sign is creating a chaotic and dangerous situation that's being made worse by social media. CBS's Jeff Nguyen reports from Los Angeles.
Imagine living underneath one of the most famous landmarks in the world. Rhoda Coleman says the view here comes with anxiety every day.
I'm in constant fear of a fire.
How many of you worry about being able to escape in case of a fire? Coleman and her neighbors live in a part of the Hollywood Hills they say is overrun with tourists, crowding their yards and choking their streets. The sign was never meant to be a tourist attraction. The 45 feet tall letters went up in 1923 to advertise a real estate development. The land was sold and the last 4 letters on the famous sign came down in 1949. Today, it towers over visitors posing with it for social media clout.
The line of cars goes back up all the way.
But neighbors fear a repeat of the Palisades fire when people abandon their cars blocking fire trucks. Visitors often light up despite warning signs posted every few feet. We witnessed the danger ourselves during a visit in April as a fire broke out in the canyon. The congestion slowed down this fire truck responding to the call. It's the kind of chaos neighbors say is getting worse every year as social media influencers direct followers to the best views of the sign.
You can open it up and go right through.
Public health concerns are growing too as the crowds draw food vendors who are often unlicensed who leave behind garbage or worse. The city has put up new signs restricting parking, but from these images, they haven't helped much.
I think that we need to step up enforcement, and I'm going to make sure that that happens.
Frustrated neighbors say they'll believe it when they see it.
What do you say to people who might be watching this and saying this is just a bunch of elitists who don't want people in their neighborhood?
We are happy to share, but there needs to be some sort of accountability from our government. We can't have a free-for-all traffic situation. It just doesn't make any sense.
One thing that isn't disputed, the Hollywood sign was here first, but its famous 9 letters now spelling trouble with no end in sight. Jeff Nguyen, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Still ahead on the CBS Weekend News, it's not just tourists, how YouTubers are shaking things up in Hollywood. In France, hundreds of people have been arrested after soccer celebrations turned ugly. The worst of it was in Paris. Violence swept through the capital after Paris Saint-Germain's victory in the Champions League final. Thousands filled streets, vandalizing businesses and clashing with police who used tear gas to disperse rioters. From that nightmare to the big opening for a new horror film.
I'm not saying I don't believe you.
Okay, I'm gonna come back here.
That is a clip from Backrooms, earning millions this weekend, topping ticket sales. At number 2, Obsession, both horror films directed by, get this, 20-something-year-old YouTubers. The latest Star Wars movie rounds out the top 3. Tomorrow marks 100 years since the birth of this Hollywood legend. But this right here is Norma Jean Baker in 1949, as she's known. It's one of the 5 previously unpublished photos being auctioned this week, taken before she became known as Marilyn Monroe and captured the world's attention. This weekend, more than 1,000 Monroe lookalikes gathered in Palm Springs, California. Event organizers said that is a world record. Next on the CBS Weekend News, the night the Beatles took their final bow. But first, a look back at this day in history.
Starting in 1977, oil will begin flowing through the pipeline, across Alaska, and then by tanker to the lower 48 states.
This is Survivor.
One of history's great mysteries was finally solved today, the identity of Watergate's Deep Throat.
Finally, the Beatles in black and white. No one knew it at the time, but the Fab Four performed their final public concert 60 years ago in San Francisco. In tonight's Weekend Journal, CBS's Ann Makovec shows us a new collection of rare photos from that historic night.
Candlestick Park, August 29, 1966. It was a cold and windy Monday night. The stands half full, but you certainly couldn't tell by the noise. By the end of summer, the Beatles reached the end of their 3rd North American tour. Last stop, San Francisco.
This is coming onto the stage at Candlestick, coming out of second base.
On hand to capture the moment, and the only photographer allowed backstage, the late legendary Jim Marshall.
No one knew, least of all me. I sure as hell didn't know it was the last concert. Turns out it was.
Now a new collection of rare photographs and proof sheets has come to light, thanks to editor Amelia Davis and rock historian Joel Selvin.
But Jim Marshall turned out to be somebody really special. His sense of these people as heroes is imbued in every photograph he took of them.
Backstage, the Beatles looked exhausted.
You can really feel that in these photographs. They're drinking tons of tea.
They're smoking a lot of cigarettes, and they're doodling on the tablecloths.
After the concert, the caterer's tablecloth was stolen. Half a century later, it is returned and auctioned for more than $88,000.
The way they authenticated the tablecloth was by using one of Jim's photographs.
Half an hour and 11 songs later, the Beatles were gone. The following year, the band released the revolutionary Sgt. Pepper album.
And that was a record that could have never been performed live.
Photos captured the end of an era, from live tours to pioneering studio creations. Ann Makovic, CBS News, San Francisco.
What a time. Well, that is the CBS Weekend News for this Sunday. I'm Jericka Duncan in New York. We thank you for watching. Have a great night.